From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Badass Counseling Show podcast. It's so great to see you today. We're in the middle of winter, at least in the northern hemisphere, and it is cold, as my father used to say. But your sight of you, the sight of you warms our hearts, and it's great to have you here with us. Wherever you are tuning in from, whether it's New Brunswick or all the way down to New Zealand, we love you. We have followers around the world, and we actually have folks in Latvia and Japan, and it makes us happy that we have folks that really care about each other and listen in and glean from the experiences and struggles and triumphs of other people. I am joined in studio by my team, KC, who is over in the booth and stunning and brilliant as usual, and Rob the Rocket, handsome little devil that he is. Rob, what say ye today?
You need glasses, but beyond that, yes.
I have glasses.
There they are.
Okay.
People do. I'm a gleaner myself, so I appreciate everything I can glean from this.
And the gleaners, so that folks know, is back in the old days, thousands of years ago, the gleaners were actually the old women that were allowed to go through the fields after the harvest, and they would leave. There would be some wheat left after the harvest. It would be left for the gleaners, these women, to come through, and the very, very poor, and gather up for their families sort of what was left over, and they were the gleaners.
Yeah, that sounds like me. Yeah.
Well, I have to share two things this morning before we get started, folks. One, I was on my way here and I was listening to Angus and that great guitar solo at the beginning of Thunderstruck with AC/DC, and it got me all jacked up Mountain Dew. So I am ready for a great lightning round. I don't know, man. Come on, it's Thunderstruck. It's AC/DC. And then the other thing, I have to share this with you guys. I have to. Literally just this morning, I had the single dumbest comment on any video I have posted in the last year. Single dumbest, like tragically dumb.
What a buildup. I need to hear this.
Oh, yeah. So I have a post up on when to leave. If you're considering divorcing and you have kids, when to leave. Do you wait till they're 18? Do you do it now? That's the nature of the video. I'm not going to spoil it. Go check it out on Instagram, Lemon8, on all the sites, Facebook, whatever. This gentleman, and I use that term loosely, this gentleman said, regarding me, said, this sissy sounds like the type of guy who cries at his own kid's funeral.
Oh.
What a fucking piece of shit, man. Who the fuck? And I'm not insulted. All right, I get people throwing arrows at me all day. I don't give a shit about that.
Let them.
What kind of piece of shit thinks it's bad to cry at your child? What is that? I don't even know what that is. What is that? Oh,
that's bro culture in the wrong direction.
Oh, that's beyond bro culture. Bro culture, even
on steroids.
Yeah, even macho guys would admit, of course I'm going to cry at my own child's. What? That's just disgusting.
Of course.
Ugh. All right, here we go. We've got Michelle Daly over on Facebook asking the question, how do I start to heal after a relationship with a narcissist? Michelle, the way you heal after a relationship with a narcissist is the way you heal after any relationship that has ended. And what keeps us stuck in past relationships is the pain, the sadness, but especially the longing and the love. You know, we have the hatred, we have the anger, we have the sadness, and you need to be flushing that out, journaling about it, writing about it, talking to your best friends about it, talking to your favorite auntie who's such a good listener. You need to be talking about all your anger and all your sadness. You have to, and you need to access that anger. And if you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, in all likelihood, the hardest feeling for you to access is anger, because anger is indicative of you standing up for yourself. And if you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, in all likelihood, you got beaten down years ago. So you don't have your anger. Inside of anger is the word no. No, I don't like how this feels. No, you can't treat me this way. You've lost your boundaries. You've lost your no. And inside the word no is the word I. No, I don't want to do that. No, I don't like how that feels. No, that's not fair to me. So one of the things that you have to access when you're healing from the breakup, the divorce from a narcissist, is you have to access your anger, because until you access your righteous anger, your authentic, deserved, justified anger, you're not going to heal. Furthermore, you're going to go into your next relationship at some point, and you're still not going to have access to your justified anger. And I'm not saying, oh, I'm going to be angry all the time. No, anger is a natural answer in a natural response in life to certain situations. So one, you have to access that anger, and you need to be flushing that out in your journaling, in your letter writing, in talking to Auntie May, that good listener. But also you need to be flushing out the love, because what keeps us stuck in the past more than anything is the love and the longing. And gee, if they would just let me do a little bit more, then I could get them back. If we could just talk it out, then I could get them back. All right? So you need to be flushing out the love. And then the other thing you need to be diving into to get past the narcissist and to get over the relationship is the fear. You need to be going into your fear in your journaling. What is it I'm most afraid of? I'm afraid of being alone. Well, no, not really. I don't mind being alone. Well, what if I were to say, instead of being alone, I'm afraid of not having someone? See, that's different. I'm afraid of not having someone, which is really what alone means. But you say, oh, I'm afraid of being alone. No, I'm alone all the time. I drive to work and, my husband travels for work, so I'm alone all the time. No, that's not what I mean. Not having someone. So you've got to access and flush out your anger, not just the sadness, the anger. I bet, Michelle, that you have no problems flushing out your sadness, but the anger, the fears, and especially the love and the longing. All right, next question. Here we go. To which BB123 says love addiction is real and people act like it's not a problem. No, it definitely is, but it's not an addiction that is necessarily something that can't be gotten through. It's just a matter of flushing all this shit out. It's just like anything else. You just got to flush that shit out. All right. Chris says, I absolutely cried at my daughter's funeral. That guy is sick, referring to a comment I made earlier. Absolutely, Chris. It's fucking normal. Your child has to go in for surgery, or your hunting dog of 13 years dies, of course, or is sick. Of course you're going to cry. All right. Amanda Hills Brown offers a question that we've never had before. What to do when your psychiatrist is narcissistic? Simple answer, get a new psychiatrist. All right. And I'm not being flippant there. I'm serious. All right.
That was an easy one.
Yeah, that was an easy one. All right. Next question. Lots of great questions flipping by here. And I like that you guys are keeping them short. Makes it easier for me to sort of quick review it. Here we go. Eileen asked the question, I need advice on how to handle the fact that I'm struggling with possibly visiting the mother in the nursing home. She's an evil bitch, and I want to somehow close that fucking chapter. Okay, first of all, Eileen, why are you even visiting her in the nursing home? If she's an evil bitch and you want to close that fucking chapter, obviously you fucking hate her guts. I mean, the rage coming through in those couple of comments, which I'm sure is justified, Eileen. Don't get me wrong. I'm in no way fucking judging. What you guys got to understand, some people get really pissed that so many of these young people nowadays are cutting off their parents. Just for the record, most of the people cutting off parents nowadays aren't the people in their 20s. All right, I do this for a living, all right? This is my work. And so when I put up posts on the idea of, creating distance from family or boundaries or whatever, I'm reading all the fucking, literally thousands and thousands of comments. I get people DMing and they go through either me or they go to my assistant, Kate. It's not people in their 20s, it's people in their 40s and their 50s and their 30s, all right? This isn't these young people nowadays bullshit. All right. It's the people who've been trying for decades to get close to the parent, and the parent isn't atoning for the pain they caused. All right. Or the parent is still trying to control them, or still treating like shit, or still taking advantage. All right. Or still, using them as their, shit stick. All right. So Eileen, when you say I need advice on how to handle the fact that I'm struggling with possibly visiting the mother in the nursing home, she's an evil bitch, and I want to somehow close that fucking chapter. One, why are you going to the nursing home? We obviously don't have the ability for a conversation here, but why go to the nursing home if you're trying to close a chapter? Sounds like you're keeping the chapter open. Furthermore, you've got so much rage, and that has to come out of you. And I don't doubt for 1 second, Eileen, that rage is fully justified. All right. But you need to start flushing that shit out. And don't go to the nursing home. If you absolutely Oh, Eileen follows up. She was abusive my whole life. I'm 55 and I still have physical scars from this from this evil bitch. Yeah, Eileen, dude, counseling, I recommend it. You're probably already in it already, but in your journaling and writing your mother letters that you don't send, but you need to be flushing out all the rage, all the hurt, all the sadness, as well as all the longing, because somewhere down in there, even though you probably don't have it anymore, for a long time, you still had that longing to connect with your mother, and all of that has to come out of you. All right. Rob, what's your question?
Over on YouTube, Sven, we have Let Them 444, who says the 444 refers to divine protection.
Got it.
Okay. Anyway, Let Them says, I was raised by extreme takers. I have young kids, and I want to make sure to raise them better than I was. How do I make sure to do that intentionally every day? I'm worried about screwing them up.
Yeah. And you know, one of the things I like to tell people is that guilt is the beginning of good parenting. Let that sink in a second, people. Guilt is the beginning of good parenting. Do you want to know why? Think about what I was just talking about when I was talking with Eileen, that she has a mother that, you know, she's so angry about, and the mother did all these things. And the mother didn't own any of that shit, clearly, right? So the mother wasn't reflecting on her own behavior and owning her shit. So a parent who is feeling guilt is a parent who is reflecting on my mistakes and what I did wrong and how I can do better and shit like that, okay? So if you're feeling guilt, it's an indicator you're reflecting on your shit and you want to do better. That's a great fucking sign. Now, it's easy to stay locked in that guilt forever, and that's not good either. But the fact that you're reflecting on it and how can I do better, and you're attempting to be a deliberate parent is fantastic. But the notion, if you're trying to do better in the moment, it's already too late. It's like trying to control your anger in the moment. If you're trying to control your anger in the moment, it's already too late. Anger management, quote unquote, or deliberate parenting doesn't happen in the moment. Primarily. Yes, it happens there, but it primarily happens long before that. What does that mean? What that fundamentally means, and what's this person's name, Rob? Let them 444.
Let them, yes.
Right. What this means is the single, and you guys have heard me say it before, but I need to just hammer this home. There is nothing that you can do to more powerfully transform your parenting than to rewrite your own past, to heal your childhood. And people say, oh, you can't change the past. The fuck you can't. I work with clients every day and they're changing their past. What they're fundamentally changing is the belief system that they were taught about themselves. And it requires going into the past, beginning to determine those core beliefs that got pressed into the wet cement of their soul that hardened, that they don't even know exist. We go in and we determine those. And this is what my book is for. There's a hole in my love cup. But you determine those and then blow those fuckers up and then determine the impact of those over the course of the lifetime and how those core beliefs that you were taught to believe about yourself and about life have been driving the equation of your entire fucking life and how they are either undermining or flat out driving all of your parenting decisions. Nothing will transform your parenting more than you healing your past. And it is never too late. I don't give a two shits if your children are 33 or 47 or 7, right? In fact, if your children are 33 or 47, it's like it will be more welcome than at any other age. The older your children are, the more they long to connect with you. And they've given up on it probably. They'll say, oh, it'll never happen. But boy, imagine if it did. You have the power, but what it requires is the humility to get over your own shit and say, no, you can't just keep saying, oh, I did my best. No, you didn't do your best. You want to know how I know? Because you haven't apologized sincerely for all the mistakes and pain that you caused. Okay, think about that. You can say, oh, my parents did their best. Did they really? Let me ask you this. When your parent and in their work, if they offended their boss, would they go to their boss and apologize? Oh, I'll bet they would. And if they didn't, they probably wouldn't have a fucking job. HR would find out, right? Or if they are the boss and it's their company, if they offended a customer, would they go to the customer and apologize? You're fucking right, they would, or their business wouldn't last, right? Okay, so they have the ability to apologize. Furthermore, they understand the need for apologies in creating human relationships. Therefore, why have they not apologized to you for the pain they caused you? They acknowledge apologies are necessary. They've acknowledged that they are capable of doing it, yet they're just saying, fuck you, I don't need to apologize to you, peckerhead. Oh, Oh, okay. So that's what you think of me. Right. Or think about this. I had a client this week. He was raised, he had two sisters. And client is in his, 40s. And he talks about, my mom had it so rough. My dad had a really shitty childhood, blah, 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 blah. So I understand why they didn't raise me well. I said, okay, no problem. And I take copious notes during counseling. And then later in the session, I said, by the way, you mentioned in your autobiography that you wrote for me, in your 10-page autobiography, that your sister was the golden child. He said, oh, fuck yeah. My sister, I'll just name her Susie. My sister Susie was just, my parents doted on her, blah, 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 blah. I said, well, wait a minute. If your parents doted on Susie, you said your parents had shitty childhoods themselves, and that's why they didn't raise you well. But they had shitty childhoods when they were raising Susie. So if they had shitty childhoods and that's why they didn't raise you well, technically their shitty childhoods should have meant that that's why they wouldn't have been able to raise Susie well, but they raised Susie well, which means their shitty childhood had nothing to do with how they raised you. They chose not to raise you. They already proved by how they raised Susie, they proved that they knew how to do better, and they chose not to. They chose to be a fucking asshole to you. They chose to be negligent, or they chose to be abusive, or they chose to check out. And when you choose to engage in action that hurts another human, we call that malice towards a child. So don't give me this bullshit that your parents did their best. Have they apologized for what they did? Then they haven't done their best. Did they treat another child as they treated you? Then they haven't done their best. Let me ask you this. Do they treat each other? Do your parents treat each other better than they treated you? Or do they treat their friends better than they treat you? Oh, so they know how to treat human beings better. So they didn't do their best. They literally, by treating other people differently and better than they treat you, they are acknowledging that they know how to do better. So they didn't do their best. People, this notion they did their best is insane. All right, that was that rant. Next question.
No, actually, Let Them has a comment. He says, thank you. And in terms of his parents, still trying to heal after going no contact 4 months ago, and it's a long road.
It is a long road. It is. All right, Christina asked the question in all capital letters. Christina really wants to be heard. Just so you know, Christina, when you write in all capital letters, you are screaming. So I'm going to listen. You don't have to scream. I will listen, I promise. And by the way, that was something I always told to my children. When they'd yell or scream or slam the door or stomp their feet, I'd say, I'm the one person in life you don't have to scream. Not that I mind your screaming. It's okay, but I'll listen. All right? I'll listen. Are you listening to your kids, guys? Just listening? Or do they have to shout in order to be heard? All right. Christina asks, what if I'm the narcissistic one, but I think it's him? How can I tell? Well, first of all, if you're asking that question, that's a pretty good indicator then you may not be. However, it's not a quick process of am I not, okay? Do you want to know what the honest truth is? Go inside yourself and do the healing work. Just do the fucking healing work. It's not, is it me, is it you? Because the truth is, in most relationships, two people have culpability. And maybe my culpability is that I'm allowing someone to run over me. So then I'm not the cause of the pain, but I'm allowing someone to hurt me. All right? So you need to do the healing work. I strongly, strongly recommend you get that book. There's a Hole in My Love Cup, because that's going to walk you through that healing process. All right. And Dee Dee says, in response to my previous little bit, she says, deep down, I know they didn't do their best. Right, Dee Dee. And therefore, what has to come out is all of your feelings of anger, sadness, disappointment, rage, hatred, even all of that. You got to flush all that out or you won't heal. And see, this is the thing, people. One of the things that I talk about with my clients that I ask them at the beginning of my session. All right. So they give me a 10-page autobiography and I read that in advance. I don't charge that. That's usually 2 to 3 hours. And I charge $500 an hour for counseling. Yes, I do. Being based in the Manhattan area, that's what I charge, all right? But I charge that so that I can spend a lot of time doing a lot of pro bono work with veterans and homeless people in my city, as well as runaway teens. And so anyway, my point is this. We hit the ground running and so forth. And one of the points I was going to make is that I ask people right up front, are you willing to look at the full truth. And I asked them that at the very beginning, and it's such a fucking setup. It's such a setup because I know where I'm going to take them, and I know they're not going to want to look at the full truth, but they always say, yes, I just want to heal. I want to look at the full truth. But then once we start getting down to it, like Dee Dee just said, deep down, I know that they didn't do their best. So then in Dee Dee's case, I'd say, Dee Dee, they didn't do their best. And that means that they knew they could do better and they chose not to. So fundamentally, when I can do better at something, but I choose not to, I'm fundamentally conveying the underlying message, I don't give a shit. Right? Like, honestly, if I'm really honest, my girlfriend and I were having this conversation. My girlfriend is like my mom in one fantastic way. I could eat off my mother's floors. It's like my mom was fucking Amish or something. You could eat off fucking Amish floors. They're so fucking clean. My mom's floors and my mom's kitchen were the fucking cleanest. And my girlfriend, same. Now, I'm clean, all right? I'm a little bit of a neat freak, but not like super neat freak. But my girlfriend, super neat freak. And especially the kitchen, which I love, all right? So for me, I care about clean, but it reached a point where it's like, I don't give a shit. All right. I don't wipe down my counters like 4 times a day, once a day, maybe twice a day. Okay. But it's just like, so what am I saying? I don't give a shit about like that next level of super neat freak. All right. I don't give a shit. So when Dee Dee says deep down, I know they didn't do their best, that means, so then I would lay before that client and I would lay it before them and say, so fundamentally, your parents were saying that it reached a point where they just didn't give a shit about you. How does it feel to know that your parents had a limit about how much they gave a shit about you and their limit wasn't very high? And a lot of times people don't want to look at that shit. And that's why I asked them in the beginning, are you willing to finally look at the truths as an adult, to see all of the truths and this is the really fucking wretched part, and to go back into the skin of 7-year-old you and feel what he felt, what she felt. Because what we do is we look back on 7-year-old me and we think about it as an adult. Well, mom and dad were doing their best, or, dad was working a lot. So I understand, you're looking at that 7-year-old and the feelings he was feeling, and you're minimizing his feelings because you see it as an adult versus going back to be that 7-year-old and allowing that feeling, that child to have his feelings. Do you see what I'm talking about here? It's so easy to look at the world through the adult eyes and excuse what was done to the 7-year-old, whereas the healing comes from going into that 7-year-old skin and welcoming up all those feelings, because that 7-year-old's feelings got stuffed down, and that's the fucking problem. Not only did the feelings get stuffed down, but by stuffing those feelings down and so much more, the BS beliefs that 7-year-old was taught about himself because he or she was silenced. And so what you have to do is step back into that 7-year-old skin and welcome up all of those feelings. All of those, what those feelings are, is those are your authentic responses. Your authentic self isn't the trauma that was done to that 7-year-old or that 17-year-old. It was your responses. That was that 7-year-old's authentic response. So that 7-year-old has the opportunity to introduce you to your authentic self. And if you don't go back and feel it and give that 7-year-old permission to feel what he feels, now it's you silencing him. Now it's you silencing her. It's not them now. Now it's you. Now it's you telling that 7-year-old your feelings don't matter. Because you're too afraid to feel it now because it's too overwhelming, too scary, too sad, too anger-inducing. So now it's you silencing that child. You have the power to heal it because you're stronger than that 7-year-old was. You have the power, but because you're scared, now it's you saying, sorry, peckerhead, I'm too scared. Your feelings don't matter. I'm going to silence you now. And that's what's going to keep you stuck for a whole long time. All right. We've got more to come right after this short break.
Why do we sometimes feel as though we are constantly reliving the same story with different partners? What binds our traumas to our fantasies? How do the traces of significant events from our lives influence our erotic preferences? Can we ever free ourselves from the imprints left by our past? You can find answers to those and more in PhD Canadian professor Michael Doris's latest, The Little Red Book on the Origin of Your Sexual Fantasies, available on Amazon.
Are you longing to feel connected and not so alone? Longing to be happy and more alive, Badass Counseling is excited to announce the creation of Community Plus, a subscription-based private group of folks just wanting to more closely share their soul journey together with like-minded folks and with me, Sven. For a monthly fee, you'll get bi-monthly live Q&As with me, Sven, giving you a better chance of getting your own questions answered. A private community feed for you to post pictures, successes, struggles, joys, even the occasional cat picture, creating greater connection and help for healing and growth. Random drawings for free small group sessions and drawings for private coaching sessions with me. Priority access to becoming a guest on the Badass Counseling Show podcast. Unlimited access to my DIY video courses, Healing the Soul and Unleashing Your Greatness. And so much more. Community Plus is for people serious about their soul journey who want real growth, real help, real laughter, real connection, and true community. Join us now at badasscounseling.com.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
And we are back, and it's great to have you here. Okay, we've got a bunch of quick questions here. All right, Ryan Trober asks, how do I get over the hate I have for my family after being humiliated and abused, and they deny it? You get over it by going into it and going through it. That means, Ryan, you go into it and you get out pen and paper and you start fucking journaling your ass off, man. You start writing them letters that you don't send. You have to give yourself access to the hate, to feel that fucking rage, scream to the heavens, but you have to use your words. You have to put it into words. Write a song, write poetry, write letters, write journaling, okay? And, if you want therapy, you can do that too. But all this shit you can do on your own, folks, all right? But you have to start flushing all of that hate out of you. You have to give yourself that permission. And they keep denying it. You add on to the end there, which means you still want something from them. You want them to admit it. And they're not going to. Right? And that hurts even more. And remember, folks, as long as you want something from someone, it can be anything. Oh, I want your Corvette. As long as you want something from someone, they have the power to make you miserable by withholding it. Right? And you still want them to stop denying it and admit what they did to you, Ryan. Right? Because then they'll finally accept you. Then you can finally be welcomed back into the family. Then you can finally receive their love again. But they're saying, no, you can't. Not on our terms are that you're the fuckhead and we're denying that we did anything wrong. Fuck you, which means you're an outsider, which means fundamentally, Ryan, for you to accept your truth and honor your truth, you are to walk forward from this point on in your life without a family. You are alone now, Ryan, and it sucks. And so it's not just the hatred, it's the sadness as well. Right. You have no family. And so you have to go into it. And that is a loss. You are grieving the loss of your family, Ryan. Okay. Next question. Denise asks, how do you not accept but come to like things about yourself? My mom would criticize everything about my dad, even his physical appearance. I share a lot in common with my dad, including my body. I hear from others that my body is attractive, but I look grotesque to myself. How do you combat this distortion? Folks, this is a great question that Denise raises. Even if you never criticize your child, but you are a critical person, your child hears that voice. So let's say you criticize your other kid, or let's say you criticize your spouse. Children hear crosstalk between the parents. Children hear you criticizing your neighbor. Oh, man, old Mr. Johnson's a real cranky fuck. Boy, he blah, blah, blah. Your children hear that. And so if in Denise's case, I heard my mom criticizing everything about my dad, and especially since she feels she bears a resemblance to her dad, she took mom's criticism as criticism of her. But even if she didn't look like her dad, she would hear mom's voice criticizing, and the child starts to question themselves. All right. So how do you come to like things about yourself when you basically hear mom's critical voice in your head is what Denise is asking. You don't start there. You don't start by trying to love yourself when you've got this critical voice inside of you. You get the critical voice out of you. Because until you get that raw sewage voice out of you, you'll never believe in your own worth and your own value. You'll never believe anybody else telling you how great you are. The fundamental problem is that you have to slay the mother of your childhood. I don't need you to confront your living, breathing mother. I mean, you can do that if you want. I don't need you to do that in order to heal you. What I need you to do, what you need you to do, is you need to slay the voice of your mother inside of you, which means having the courage to go inside and begin to identify the messages, the bullshit messages you received about yourself and about life and about your father and about everything from your mother. Because the damage is being done from within. That voice is still in there. It's like a virus infecting an operating system. It's like a giant fucking tapeworm inside your body. Have you seen those when they pull those out? They can be 6, 8, 10 feet long, a tapeworm. It's the most disgusting thing. Seriously. And they just pull it and pull it. It's like all through your body and shit like that. That's what your mom's messages are. Giant tapeworms all through your body, eating you up from the inside. And you're like, well, how the fuck do I pull out a fucking mom tapeworm voice? That's what I wrote the book for. There's a hole in my love cup. Just go to the website, badasscounseling.com. You can get the audiobook and get the workbook that goes with it. It's available in Spanish. You can get the paperback. We've got the French version, the Canadian French version, the French version coming out. We're coming out in Mandarin or Cantonese soon, blah, blah, blah. But you need it. You're going to need that to help you do that, because until mommy's voice is out of you, you're fucked, Denise. No amount of positive messaging or standing in front of the mirror saying, hey, I like me, is going to work. You have to slay mom's voice inside of you. Go ahead, Rob.
On YouTube, Sven, Ms. Kitty Cat says, Sven, you've helped me so much the past 18 months. I'm recovering from a broken spine caused by domestic violence. Just last night, I saw your short video about feeling used. And she goes on to say, Sven gave me the courage to leave a situation that nearly killed me because I was conditioned to be a doormat and ultimately allowed myself to be a doormat. My question is, will you listen and act?
Well, Kitty Cat, I'm going to tell you one thing. You're wrong on one point. On the main point of what you just said, you're very fucking wrong. Okay? First of all, I feel bad about your spine, and we send only our love to you, healing love for that your spine will heal. But you're very fucking wrong on one point. I didn't give you the courage. No. Courage came from inside of you. Maybe you heard something on our show that inspired you a bit, or a video or whatever, but you did the work, kid. You did the work. You folks got to remember that. I tell this to my clients all the time. I'm just the guy who asks the questions. I'm not working. This is play for me. I love doing this, but I'm not doing the work. Oh, hell no. Every one of you, whether you're grieving the death of a loved one, end of a relationship, big career move ahead, moving from your favorite neighborhood that you've been in for 40 years, whatever it is, you just got a health diagnosis, maybe you're cancer-free, whatever it is, you're the one in the trenches. You're the one doing the work. You are the one with the courage to rise every morning with the sun, be that sun behind the clouds or shining brightly through your window. You are the one taking the next bite of food in the hope that it will power you through yet another day. You are the one finding the strength in your body even when you feel so weak. You are the one leaning on friends or you have no friends. You are the one walking away from your families when you've tried so goddamn hard to make them love you. You are the one recovering when someone has siphoned every last drop of good out of you because they were so fucking cruel. You are the one. It's not me. It's you. It is to your courage that I salute. You. It is your courage. It is your hope. It is your belief in one more day. It is your belief that healing is possible. And I tell you, it is possible. Doable. It's not, it doesn't even have to take a long time. If you go deep enough, transformation can be immediate if you go deep enough. But you guys are the ones doing the work. I was in a 12-year suicidal depression that I had to get myself out of. I know what you are going through. Different circumstances from what you're going through, but I know what you're going through. You are the ones with the courage.
Sven, on behalf of all the people listening in now and myself, there's a lot of tears emojis based on what you just said, and all I can say is thank you.
Mm-hmm. Jess Forrest says, I'm worried that attending my uncle or grandmother's funeral will be bad for my mental health. Jess, I can completely understand that. And Jess, I would encourage you, I'm sure you already are, but in your journaling, you need to be writing out and talking with yourself in your journaling about the feelings that you're feeling, why it would be bad for your mental health, what you fear happening, what you're feeling. Imagine yourself at the funeral. What feelings are coming up, and write those out. Write a letter to your dead uncle. Write a letter to your dead grandmother. Write a letter to your family or the people who are going to be there. Obviously, don't send the letter. But most importantly, if it's bad for your mental health, do not go. You have every right to not go. Remember, people, the funerals, as a former clergyman, I've performed funerals and weddings and more weddings. Funerals are not for the dead. Funerals are for the living. And if you don't need the funeral, don't go. If it's going to harm you, it's okay to not go, right? If your uncle or your grandmother is someone you loved, then wouldn't they want you to do what would be best for you? Okay? And if it was someone they were someone you don't love, then why the hell would you even go to their funeral in the first place? You have every right to not go, Jess. All right, next question.
By the way, Ms. Kitty Cat says, I'm a veteran, and what you just said means a lot. I know you'd like that.
Absolutely. Thanks for your service, Kitty Cat. I mean that. And you're going to heal great, and life's going to get even better. Here we go. Melanie Raby says, how do you leave a 17-year relationship from a man who has an alcohol addiction, having 2 kids and nowhere to go, not wanting to leave without the kids, 17 and 18 years old now, knowing staying isn't helping anyone, been separated for 4 years but living together, guilt-ridden, scared, and defeated? Okay, a lot going on there. Not wanting to leave without the kids. Yeah. I mean, alcohol addiction. Yeah. Get the kids out of there. Okay. And you feel like, you have nowhere to go. In all honesty, one of the things that I have seen over the decades of counseling people is that people will, by the time they finally decide to leave, where they just can't take it anymore and they leave, one of the things that I frequently hear, not all the time, but they say, I've been thinking about leaving for 10 years or 5 years or 2 or whatever it is. And they say, I always thought that I couldn't, but now I just finally have to. And they find a way. When the pain has finally gotten bad enough, you've heard me say it, change will not occur until the pain gets bad enough. When the pain has finally gotten bad enough, you find a way. You stay with friends or you stay with family. You make it happen. And I understand you don't want to leave without the kids. Okay. And at 17, the 18-year-old certainly they can determine their own destiny. They get to choose where they want to go. And 17 is pretty close to getting to choose as well. But let me ask you, is the reason you're not wanting to leave without the kids because you're worried about the kids? Now at 18, he or she certainly gets to choose for themselves. Is it that you're worried about the kids, or you feel you can't make it without them there to sort of lean on? And if it's the latter, if you need them there to lean on, that's kind of not a good sign. And I'm not scolding you, Melanie, nothing like that. But I'm just saying, then you're using your children to meet your love needs and your support needs. And your children don't exist for that. You exist to meet their support needs. So if you're wanting to bring the children with you for their sake, if you're being real, you got to be really fucking brutally honest with yourself, though. Am I doing this for the children, or am I doing it for me? This idea of bringing them along. If you're doing it for their sake, great, go for it. But they get a say. They get to choose at those ages, all right? But if you're doing it for your sake, that's not okay. Because then you're using them and they need their energy for themselves. When you're 17, 18, 19, 21, 23, you know what you're supposed to be doing at those ages? You're supposed to be beginning to fly at full wingspan. And if I, the parent, have put rocks on your back, and now I'm not just talking to you, Melanie, I'm talking to all parents. If I've put rocks in the burlap sack on your back, if I've created pain, frustrations, anger, hurt from your past, those are like rocks on your back, and you're not going to be able to fly at full wingspan. You're going to fly with clipped wings. You're not going to be able to fly. That's what those years, or those earliest years are, to begin to fly, to begin to live your life. And my job as the parent is to take out all the rocks of pain and hurt and misery and so forth that I've put in there. So my wanting to lean on my children, am I using my children to get my own needs met? And if so, you got to stop that. I have to stop that. We all have to stop that. But staying is not helping anyone. Yeah, then you need to get out of there. You need to find a way. And you feel guilty. Melanie, of course you do. And you need to be flushing out those feelings of guilty. You need to be journaling about that, writing letters to the people you feel guilty to. Do you feel guilty towards your husband or guilty towards the kids? Maybe both. You got to be flushing out all those feelings. Folks, you got to understand, it's all our feelings inside of us that cause us to make bad decisions or cause us to not make decisions that need to be made. It's all those built up feelings as well as bullshit beliefs we've been taught about ourselves. All of that has to come out. You have to be engaged in flushing that out because the more it builds up, you can't just power through it. The more that shit builds up, the more we become angry all the time or we become depressed or anxiety ridden. And that's when we make our worst decisions or when we don't make decisions that need to be made. And I know you're scared. Got to flush all that out too. And defeated, that's right. But at some point, Melanie, the pain gets so bad that we finally change and we just finally say, fuck it, and we make the change. But you got to do the healing work. You can do it. All right, next question. You got something, Rob?
Interesting question from Ryan Sven, who says, Sven, do you do any follow-up podcasts? You had one a year ago that was a 2-part series. Just wondering how people are doing a year later and wondering about their progress.
That's interesting because we've only had a couple of 2-parters. We had that one couple. Do you remember? It was a husband and wife. We had the wife, then we had the husband, then we brought them together.
He said, she said.
Yeah, that was that one. And then there was another one, whatever. We haven't done follow-ups. Ryan, thanks for the heads up. And we will let our production assistant, Sophia, know that. And maybe we'll do some of that. Thanks for the heads up on that, Ryan. I like that.
Interesting.
I like that. I leave that to the production team. My brain is too small to handle stuff like that. Surreal Glow asks, do you have an email I can message you on? You can message the production staff at production@badasscounseling.com. If you would like to be a guest on the show for one of our counseling episodes, write us at production@badasscounseling.com. If you want to be on the show, Tiffany asks that. Surreal Glow asks, as far as reaching me, I get about 1,000 DMs, VMs, texts, calls, emails every week. And my assistant, Kate, she goes through all of them and she sends some of them my way. But it's just more than I could possibly get to in about 7 lifetimes, more than Kate can even possibly get to. But we do our best, try to help people out. Sometimes, I'm going through social media at 3 a.m. when I wake up and I'm trying to help people out with a little comment or a little encouragement here or there. But if you want more direct access to me, go to Community Plus. It is a subscription-based, limited enrollment community at badasscounseling.com. And I'm much more actively involved there. People ask me questions there. I also do small group counseling there, as well as we have drawings every month for small group counseling with me, drawings every month for one-on-one counseling with me. That's Community Plus at badasscounseling.com. Thomas Langley asks, what does the work, this is just a quickie. Thomas Langley asks, what does the work with you one-on-one look like after working both books? Thomas, basically what it looks like is the most intense shit you've ever done. We will move very quickly, and any further obstructions or any shit will get fucking healed and moved on, and you will just go to a completely different level. That's what it fucking looks like. Very, very deep. All the dead bodies, all of the everything will come up and out. And at the very least, from the opening moment, because you'll have to send me that fucking 10-page autobiography, and I give that for free. I study that for 2.5 hours. So already you're getting a big investment of my time right there. All right, next question. Lori Mortensen says, I'm a therapist. I grew up in Minnesota, and I love this. Well, I love you, Lori. I grew up in Minnesota as well, as you likely know. Kimberly asked this question. How can I get my children to open up to me when I'm working on myself? Well, the first question is, why do you want your children to open up to you? It's not bad. I'm just curious, right? You're working on yourself and you want them to open up to you. The fact that your children are closed down to you says that either A, they're teenagers and thus it's somewhat normal, or B, they have had reason to shut down from you, to close down from you, which means they may be fearful of you, or you may have caused them pain in the past. And I'm not trying to be a jerk, but that's why people close down. Think about it. You're in a relationship with your boyfriend, with your girlfriend. If you close down, it's because they've hurt you. If you close down from a parent or from a coworker, it's because they've hurt you. And you don't want to open up because you fear getting hurt again. So how do you get them to open up when you're working on you? Well, first, keep working on you. That's good. And if you're using There's a Hole in My Love Cup, the book, you'll get there even that much faster. What I would encourage you to do, I don't know what ages your children are, Kimberly, but I posted a video on Christmas, and that's just the way I remember the date. It was either the 24th or the 25th of December of 2023. So a year ago and a month, whatever. That was a repost, but the video is me outside, and it's on all social media. Probably easiest to find it on TikTok or Instagram because it's easier to scroll through the videos on those. And it's titled something like the 7 things you can do to help your adult child heal. Okay. And you need to go through that, and you need to watch that, and you need to do the instructions on that. And what it's really fundamentally about is you taking a hearty sort of inventory of all the shit you've done to fuck them up. And if you can't do that, if you don't have that humility and the willingness to go inside and really go hardcore, looking at yourself and owning your shit, you're never going to get them to open up. Nope. Why? Because if they're closed down, it's because you've hurt them and they don't want to open up because they're afraid of getting hurt. So if you won't own the way you've hurt them in the past, why would they have any reason to think that you're not going to hurt them in the future? Right? So it starts with that. All right. Next question. All right. Here we go. Kristen Blevins asks a very hard question. It actually relates to what you brought up, Kitty Cat, somewhat. Kristen Blevins on TikTok asks, I was paralyzed 14 years ago. Will I ever get over it and find peace with it? Kristen, first of all, I am so sorry. I literally have no concept of what that must be like. My brain is incapable. I have no box in which to fit that experience. I have no experience in my life that even remotely comes close to I was paralyzed 14 years ago. Will I ever truly get over it and find peace with it? I've never experienced that, Kristen. So everything I say is going to be fucking stupid. So I acknowledge that in advance. Okay, Kristen? I humbly say that. And I'm going to tell you this. I have worked with war veterans, people who have lost their face, people who have lost body parts, people who have been condemned to death. I've done a bit of prison ministry. I've worked with people over the decades, family, friends, clients who are terminally ill. I've even worked with quadriplegics, paraplegics. So while I have not experienced it personally, I have worked with people paralyzed, physically paralyzed, paralyzed by fear, by diagnoses, by death of a child, a whole different type of paralysis. I will say again, I have no concept, Kristen, none, zip, zero, of the extraordinary life-altering experiences that you have had. None. I'm a fool. But in the work that I have done, I can tell you, as a matter of absolute fact, that I have seen the worst of the worst heal. Parents who have lost children, parents who have lost more than one child, people who have lost limbs, people who have been paralyzed, people who are looking death in the face, who have just months to live. Come to terms with, accept, to use your words, get over, and to use your words, find peace. Yes. Can you ask, will I ever truly get over it and find peace? I can't tell you if you will. That's largely up to you. I can tell you that you can, because I have seen it happen. I've been a part of it in some small way, many times. And what it requires, Kristen, and it seems crazy to say this to a person who is paralyzed, but what it requires is even greater courage than you've already had. You have the courage to get up every day, having lost limbs, one of my jobs after I left the Air Force Academy and was living in Minnesota, I took care of a gentleman who was paraplegic. I literally went and gave him bed baths every morning, drove him to 3M, where he was an executive. He was a paraplegic, but even his arms were somewhat limited in use. Drove him, took care of him, put him to bed, emptied his catheter bag, the restroom, all these things, all right? I can't imagine the courage that you have had. Extraordinary. But this is a different level of courage, different type of courage. And Kristen, it's the courage to go inside of you and welcome the ugly, the nasty, the terrifying, the overwhelming feelings that you feel inside of you. That's what's keeping you stuck. Your peace is disrupted by all of the feelings of feeling unlovable, unwantable, feelings of rage at life, at God, at the universe, feelings of extraordinary sorrow. All of those feelings. People, whatever you're wrestling with, divorce, sadness, death, think about where Kristen is at right now. And I'm not saying she has it worse than you or you have it worse than her. I'm saying this is what we're talking about. We're all paralyzed in one way or another. And with Kristen, it's her body. But the work is the same. You have to go inside and begin to flush all of that out. I'm sure you're in counseling, Kristen, but even if you are or if you aren't, you need to begin to flush all of that out. You need to go into the very feelings that terrify you the most, Kristen, and begin to get that out. Write the letters to the people that you're angry at or sad about or who have let you down. Journal all your feelings and all your fears, perhaps of never being loved or of dying alone or not being able to take care of yourself, sorrow over all the experiences that you feel you'll miss out on. I had the opportunity at my stepdaughter's graduation from college to hear a gentleman speak who was he paraplegic or blind? And he had summited all of the 7 peaks, the top 7 summits in the world. And so life is not over because of paralysis. It's not. And a lot of paralyzed folks have done a lot of amazing things, but it sure fucking feels like it's over, I'll bet. But it's been 14 years, and what that tells me is you've got a whole lot of pain, sorrow, anger, rage, sadness, everything in you, and all that needs to come out, Kristen. All right. Jessica says, my 35-year-old son was on the fast lane of life. Now he's back home with me. He's not walking. He's a jerk to me. And a crying emoji. Jessica, I'm sorry. And it sucks when someone you love, your own child, is being a jerk to you. Jessica, here's the ugly truth. The ugly truth is you have every fucking right to stand up for yourself. You not only have a right, you have a responsibility to yourself to stand up for yourself. You have a responsibility to your own soul to find the scariest word in the English language for you. When we're children, the scariest word in the English language is hearing the word no. No, you can't have the candy bar in the checkout line at the grocery store. No, you can't go to band camp. Can't afford it this year. All right, but when we're adults, the scariest word in the English language, and I talk about this in my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. When we're adults, and I guarantee it's what's going on here, Jessica. When we're adults, the scariest word in the English language is not hearing the word no. No, it's saying the word no. Because saying the word no is a boundary. It is an indicator of who I am. It's a revealing of self. We aren't just those things that we say yes to. Yes, I love going motorcycle riding. Yes, I love time alone. Well, those are indicators of who I am, but my no's are indicators of who I am as well. It's the things I don't want to do, the things I won't allow. Inside of the word no is the word I. No, I don't like that. No, I don't want to do that. No, you can't do that to me. And you can no longer be afraid of saying no. Perhaps, Jessica, you're afraid of your son not liking you if you say no. Perhaps you're afraid of his anger. Perhaps you're afraid of him raging on you. Whatever it is, at some point you're going to have to stop being afraid, Jessica. And I know it's scary, but you're going to have to. Whatever it is you're afraid of, you're going to have to find your no, because until you find your no and stand up and not back down, that's the tricky part. Plenty of us stand up for ourselves, but then we back down. Until you stand up and not back down, Jessica, He won't change. Until there is a pain point, people won't change. If you keep giving and giving and giving, now I'm talking to everyone else, Jessica. If you keep giving and giving and giving, why the fuck would they change, people? Why would they change? Until you stand up for yourself and not back down, they have no incentive to change. Whether it's your narcissist girlfriend or boyfriend, or whether it's your parent or your child or whatever it is, until you stand up and don't back down, they have no incentive to change. You have to create the incentive. Jessica, find your no. You can do it. All right, folks, whether you are joining us from New Brunswick or Newfoundland or New South Wales or New Zealand or New Hope, Pennsylvania in Bucks County, wherever it might be, we're so delighted to have you here. So many great questions. Hey, Rob, you get the final word today.
You've given a lot of people new hope, Sven, and it was some powerful shit today. So we all say how much we appreciate it.
And I appreciate you, Rob, as usual. Rob is the computer master. He never screws up on that computer. He knows more than me about computers.
Wrong.
And best of all, he knows that if you ever delete a file, it's in the trash, and you can go to the trash file of your computer and it'll still be there.
I had no idea.
Inside joke, folks, you didn't miss much. On behalf of my team here, KC over in the booth and Rob the Rocket sitting next to me, have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.